An impact so severe, our client was knocked out for several minutes at the scene until she was revived when the EMTs got on there and knocked on the door. Hello and welcome to this week's case review. My name is Shane Smith, and today I'm talking with one of the Shanesmithlaw attorneys, Thomas Oswald, one of his recent client victories, where he resolved the case for RS. Thomas, tell me about RS's case. How did the collision occur?
Another client just minding their own business, doing everything they were supposed to be doing in the right place at the right time, but somebody else just decided to do the wrong thing and ignore a stoplight. She was T-boned here and struck her head and part of her neck on the window and lost consciousness for a few minutes. Vehicle was totaled in the collision, went to the ER where she was diagnosed with several neck, back strain, head injury, and proceeded to go to a doctor, chiropractor, and get some really good treatment as well.
Wow, did you say she was knocked out at the scene for a couple minutes?
She lost consciousness for several minutes, and that was what was diagnosed by the ER after speaking with her and by the EMTs who were on the scene. She was knocked out. She didn't wake up until basically the paramedics came over and knocked on her window. And at that point, she remembered very little about what happened in the accident.
Wow. What were injuries from this collision?
She suffered from 2 different disc bulges in her cervical spine, as well as a disc bulge in her lumbar spine and a disc herniation with an annular tear and edema in her lumbar spine as well.
And that annular tear, I mean, all of them are painful, but that annular tear is usually significantly more painful than the others. How was her head? Did she recover from that after being knocked unconscious, or was that like you know what I mean? Did she recover fine with that, or did she need treatment?
We both her and I were concerned for any potential brain injuries that had occurred here, but she seemed to recover for the most part, almost entirely from any brain or head injury. Part of it could have been maybe it was trauma and she wasn't out for as long as she was, because the longer that you're knocked out, the worse that essentially is in terms of, loss of oxygen to your brain or any potential brain damage that could occur. But her biggest injuries and what she complained about months after the accident were what happened with her spine. There weren't really any complaints of head injuries much longer after the accident.
What kind of treatment were we able to help RS get for her back and neck?
She was able to go to an orthopedic doctor where she was diagnosed with those different injuries through an MRI. There was unfortunately a pretty hefty hospital bill here that ate up a lot of what treatment she was able to get through the insurance coverage here. So she was able to largely just get things diagnosed in terms of what she was suffering from. And then we were able to send her that information, send her that documentation where she could get it treated through any health insurance that she may someday acquire.
And how did things go with the insurance company? What were we able to do there?
This is another one where we were able to get every single dollar that was available for insurance coverage on this, a total of $50,000. We were able to, go to bat on this one. First, we had to go to liability, the liability carrier, which had $30,000. And we were able to get that relatively quickly. The battle here came in with the underinsured motorist coverage, her own insurance that she paid for. It took significantly longer trying to convince the insurance company that she bargained and contracted with, and they said, "Hey, we're gonna help you. We're gonna stand by you when you're in your time of need." We really had to advocate and go to war with them for a while.
So this is her own carrier. So the bad guy's insurance paid, I don't want to say quick, but you got that resolved. Then dealing with her own insurance company, the ones that she pays money to every month, it acts like they're going to take care of her. That was where the biggest part of the fight came from?
That was where the biggest part of the fight came from. And that's where we saw what you see a lot of times with insurance companies. They're looking at the ER bill and they're complaining about it being too high. And they say, we shouldn't have to pay all that. And we have to go back to them and say, hey, health insurance didn't pay anything here. Nobody else is paying anything here. You're the ones who need to help pay this. Liability is involved here. Underinsured motorist coverage should be just as involved, so that every single dollar of what happened to our client and what health insurance costs or what medical costs she was forced to incur, she shouldn't be paying for. And she should be getting compensated for her pain, suffering, inconvenience, and especially the hassle and disruption that this caused to her life. There's innumerable non-economic consequences that happen when you're involved in an accident.
Yeah. What's something you learned from this case, or what's a tip you would give to our listeners if they're ever involved in an accident?
Something from this one I would say is just, having a good attorney is really the best thing that you can do on these, because part of the biggest role that we play is making sure that the insurance adjusters are doing their job and reviewing everything that's there. And sometimes you have to send or fax over packages of information that you've sent or faxed and had confirmed that they've received, weeks or months earlier. And then, you come along this again, you come a couple weeks down the road and they say, well, we don't have that. We need it again. We need you to send it all over again. And just having, your own personal warrior who can go in there and fight for you and get things done, and, never let up, never let off the gas. That's what you really need. So I think that's one thing that I always tell clients. You can try to go it alone, but you're not going to get treated fairly. It's not in their business incentive to treat you fairly in terms of the insurance companies.
Well, I'm glad our RS got you on this case, because it sounds like you got all the money that was available for her through the insurance policy, and we're able to get a resolution for her. To our listeners, here's another client victory from Shanesmithlaw. Remember, if you're in pain, call Shane, 980-999-9999, or our Victim Survival Guide to Car Accidents at shanesmithlaw.com. Hit like and subscribe down below. We'll be going over another client victory next week.
In pain, call Shane.
980-999-9999. 980-999-9999. Shanesmithlaw. In pain, call Shane.